Welcome to your Wednesday, Hump Day, Guilty Pleasure. I'm happy to have you all here in my corner of the multiverse. This is the Salty Goddess Podcast, and I'm Margaret Perry, your hostess. So, what are we going to discuss today? Let's talk about common courtesy versus the chaos that we presently are handling these days. Somewhere along the line, we lost the entire plot. So let's get started with a history lesson. During the Victorian era, you were not supposed to talk about politics, religion, or money at a gathering, whether it be a, dinner party or a dance or anything like that. But today, we're practically stabbing each other over Facebook memes. Reporters are acting like John Madden calling a football game. And honestly, I want to know what the hell happened. All right? We go from extreme to extreme here in this country. We don't make micro corrections like we're supposed to. We literally pendulum swing. Okay? Like you're about to jump into the Owatka Creek off the bank. Okay? Right, Kaylee? You know what I'm saying, right? Yeah. It's dangerous. Don't do it. So, we went from one extreme, no discussion at all, to the other. Constant screaming debate. Emotion-fueled rhetoric. Now, why in the Victorian era did we avoid these topics and consider them taboo? Politics were considered to be too divisive. Religion is deeply personal, and it should be. Money could cause class anxiety and look like social climbing. So it was a strategic courtesy, not repression. Individuals wanted harmony in mixed company, right? So think about this for a second. You get invited to my house for a dinner party, and these courtesies were where you'd make, healthy deposits into the bank accounts of your neighbors or your social grouping and things of that nature, okay? There were no withdrawals. Think about that for a moment. Would you continue going to a dinner party if that kind of shit was going on at the dinner party? You wouldn't. You wouldn't. But then, as time went on and we realized that there were some things that were going seriously wrong in society, people that kept quiet were considered complicit. And so people didn't want to appear complicit. They wanted to voice their opinion so that people didn't believe that they were part of the oppressing group. But we way overcorrected. We went from silence on these subjects to straight up screaming matches. We went from civility to my opinion is fact, and if you have the opposite opinion, you must be evil. We went from Walter Cronkite, who delivered news without opinion or slant, just the facts, okay? No sound bites that were only a small portion of what someone was saying so that you could make it look like they were saying something really bad and wrong, okay? And then, but we went from him to talking heads in costumes pretending to be journalists. You know what I think is funny? When you see people reporting on the weather, reporting on a race, reporting on, like a 5K fundraiser, there's no political slant. There's no, I'm doing this fundraiser 5K and giving us all of the political reasons why it's such a good thing. But you sit behind that anchor desk and all of a sudden you have an opinion. And I don't know if it's their opinion or if it's their corporate overlord's opinion that they're talking this way. The news should just be facts. Okay? That's it. We don't want silence, but we also don't need shouting and vile, screaming at one another and calling each other names or, that kind of crap. We need micro corrections to how we have civil discourse and civil discussion. So you don't need to avoid politics altogether. But one, it doesn't need to be every fucking conversation. And it doesn't need to be so raucous and so, you're at the Super Bowl and you're the opposing team. We don't need that kind of rhetoric. We need people to just simply explain what's happening, what is going to happen when this is implemented, and why it's good or why it's bad. We can make our own decisions about whether it's good or bad. And those of you that are on social media and you think you're going to change someone's opinion, you're not. You're not. When people feel attacked, they double down. Even if they're wrong, they're going to double down on their stance because nobody likes having something forced down their throat. Have a conversation. We need to find a happy medium. I will direct all of you to Goldilocks and the Three Bears. She didn't want the too cold porridge or the too hot porridge, the too soft bed or the too hard bed. You get what I'm saying? Somewhere in the middle lies the sweet spot, and that's where we should be. Okay? Walter Cronkite, and that's the way it is. News is facts, not feelings. Anchors are performers now. They're not reporters. They give color commentary like Howard Cosell or John Madden instead of delivering straight information. And again, it's either corporate overlords that are pushing ratings and agendas, or the reporters themselves are chasing clout. What's the effect of that, my friends? We're trained to want spin, not substance. And we are actually being robbed of our right to form our own fucking opinions. We're being told what our opinions should be by people that don't live in our home, don't earn our paycheck, don't live the life that we live, and don't have the same struggles we do. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm middle class just like y'all, okay? All right? Plain and simple. I'm not making millions of dollars every year. I'm not. I don't need somebody who's never had to clip a coupon or look for a sale to tell me how I should feel about something that's happening in this country. Bitch, please, I can make up my own mind. And I've been doing it since I was 2. All right? So cut that crap out. So, civility is not silence, but it is respecting another person's opinion, even if you disagree with that opinion. Simple. Let's get back to holding the door for the person that's directly behind you, saying thank you, have a nice day, how are you? Listening completely before interrupting and speaking. And never let your disagreement turn into dehumanization of the other person. I have no problem if y'all disagree. You can disagree all you want. Please, I was on the political debate team when I was in high school. I could argue and debate all night long. We can disagree, but we can be civil when we do it. We don't need to sling arrows or send lead projectiles downrange into someone's body just because they think differently than you. That's crazy. That's crazy. Can you all think about what it would have been like if Victorians had Facebook? Lord Abernathy would have fainted dead away at Aunt Mildred's meme war. Think about that. Since when should all of this crap be out there in the public like that? It's so ridiculous. So ridiculous. Okay? So, You, as an adult, you need to be able to spot discourse when it goes from debate to dehumanization. And when that begins to happen, you need to disengage and say, unfortunately, this is not the way I would like to debate this subject matter. I'm not here to change your mind. I'm just here to state my opinion. And it's all right if your opinion isn't the same as mine. I mean, listen, there are people out there still driving Fords, we still got to let them be on the road and shit. Just keep them out of the fucking left-hand lane, please. Please. Okay? They're going to be broke down anyway. Practice micro-courtesies everywhere that you are. Okay? We don't need reporters to chew our food for us. We don't need to shout at every single person that has a differing opinion. We need to reclaim the lost art of being civil humans who can disagree without detonating the relationship or detonating during a dinner party or any other event. Okay? I mean, I promise you that if I sat down at a table with you and began discussing finances and started to tell you what I thought about your finances or how you should spend your money or how you should save your money, or maybe your clothing is entirely way too expensive for the money you make. That's not my business. Neither is your religion, and neither are your politics. But I do love to learn about other people's beliefs. It gives me a better understanding of where you come from. I will never yell, scream, and swear. You'll notice on social media, I do not engage in political or religious debate. If I'm going to debate a subject matter with you, it is because I know you and I either want to learn or I want you to, I want somebody to explain to me why things are the way they are so that I can be educated, be knowledgeable about something. And there's a lot of things I don't know. But it's not because I think I'm going to change your mind. That's never going to happen. I might, but I might not too. And I'm a firm believer that you are entitled to believe whatever you want, but you still have to have common courtesy. I can't even imagine when it became okay to start talking to people and calling them names just because they believe a different religion or have a different political leaning. That's wild to me. It is absolutely wild to me. It shouldn't be happening. And I do believe in free speech. You are entitled to say anything you want, but you need to be respectful. Okay? You don't need to name call. I mean, all right, listen, y'all know I do. I swear the F word is like salt on everybody's, dish. I do use it generously, I guess. I'm sure that isn't always palatable for everyone. Okay? It's like, the salt on your French fries. Yeah. But I do not call someone a name because they have a different religious belief than me or because they have a different political leaning. I'll call you a jackhole if you see me with packages in my arms and I'm trying to get through the door and you just let it slam in my face. Yeah, you're a jackhole. If you drive in the left-hand lane 10 miles below the speed limit, you're a jackhole. Okay, yes, I do say that. I don't know if you can hear me from my pickup truck or not. I hope maybe you can. I don't know. All right, but you're a jackhole if you get on social media and you think that someone is less than because you have a differing opinion about politics or religion or money or any other thing. All right? That's not the American way. We can agree to disagree. There is nothing wrong with that. I promise you. It would be like me coming in and going, I can't believe you painted that wall blue or purple or green. Who gives a shit? Do what you want. It's your life. Believe what you want. Is it really worth fighting your neighbor over? I don't think so. I don't like being told what to do. I certainly don't like being told what to think. I like knowledge. I like facts. I like evidence-based practices. I like guidelines that are applied to everyone equally. Man, woman, doesn't matter what color your skin is, what religion you are. Okay? That's what I think. I used to think that's what everybody in the country wanted. Why would you want a totally homogenized country? Like, variety is the spice of life. We've heard that, right? Can you imagine? Could you imagine walking down the street and everybody looking the same, acting the same? Where's the fun in that? But y'all think that it's okay to call somebody a name because they don't have the exact same beliefs that you do? That's wild to me. That is absolutely, absolutely wild to me. That's wild. So for those of you that think it's okay to call people names because they have different political beliefs, should I start walking down the street and screaming at every one of my neighbors that drives a Ford or that doesn't have a bull mastiff? Should I? What about that? Should I scream at everyone who doesn't have a master's degree and tell them they're less than? No, that's ridiculousness. Should I go to the closest apartment complex and start yelling at all those people and tell them they're doing nothing for society? They need to get the American dream under their belt and start, buying a home and contributing to society? Yeah, that's how fucking stupid you all sound. It's crazy. I really feel like them stuffy old Victorian people kind of had a point. Who the hell wants to go out and be around people? And it's like a melee, there's total chaos everywhere you go. All right. Avoiding those topics and allowing them to be so divisive. It was strategic. All right. Of course, we don't want to be silent because we don't want to ignore injustices. But oversharing has costs too. Friendships are nuked on Facebook with memes, modern courtesy in 2025, it doesn't have to be silence, but it has to be respectful boundaries. I mean, the other thing I wonder is, would y'all be talking that way if somebody was actually straight in front of you? I bet you wouldn't. So you're a bunch of keyboard warriors, right? So we had these rules, if you will, that when you look at the Victorian and Edwardian etiquette that was written, right? This is the historical part of it, the don't discuss rule. Like the 1800s to the early 1900s, there were politeness manuals and etiquette books that explicitly warned against discussing politics, religion, or money at social gatherings. And the idea was that these topics were inherently divisive and likely to provoke argument, highlight class divides, or reveal improper beliefs. I wonder what those improper beliefs were. I bet you I got a few of them. Hosts preferred harmony at the table. They didn't want debates and they didn't want discomfort. They didn't want to make anyone feel alienated or ostracized. So they had a list of what they called safe topics: travel, literature, weather, art, hobbies, music. Okay. So for the middle and the upper class, there was a divide. So talking about money was seen as like it's gauche, right? It's a sign of either greed or insecurity. And gentlefolk, as they were called, didn't need to flaunt their wealth or their lack thereof because status was supposed to speak for itself. Religion was considered deeply personal, and I get that. Think of the persecution of religions that have taken place throughout history. Okay? Think about having Protestants, Catholics, Anglicans, Jewish, Christians. That could be a social minefield. And politics was recognized as dangerous because it exposed allegiances and could escalate into real hostility. Sound familiar? So then we got post-war America, and we have post-war American etiquette from the 1940s to the 1960s. So Emily Post and Amy Vanderbilt cemented these norms in their etiquette Bibles, right? I have a book. I have one, actually. It's a really thick book. It's old. All right. Dinner party rules. Now you were to avoid conversations about sex, religion, politics, and money, keeping things light and fun. This was part of our mid-century American optimism because we'd been through 2 world wars. We'd been through the Great Depression, Black Friday, right? So you didn't want to go to someone else's home and then rock the boat and cause disruption because that's rude. Why would you go to you want to do it in your own home at your dinner party? Like, let your freak fly, fucker. That's great. But don't do it at my house. I invited all y'all. We're going to talk about nice stuff. Art, the Buffalo Bills, go Bills, right? That's what we're going to talk about. That's it. Period. Don't rock the boat. Keep it civil. So then in the 1960s and 1970s, we had Vietnam, we had Korea, civil rights and counterculture started, right? Silence around politics and religion began to look like complicity. Young people demanded real talk instead of performative politeness. And TV brought political debates, war coverage, and religious leaders into our living rooms. Think televangelists, okay? Think about people seeing for the first time war video from Vietnam. Think about that. I am a first responder, and I know that my colleagues who have chosen this career often have difficulty handling the carnage that we see in our line of work. Emergency room nurses, physicians, techs, all of it, right? Now imagine civilians, and I don't mean that in a disrespectful way, but people that don't work in this field now seeing crap like that on TV. Okay? So we start to see a shift, political debates, war coverage. And I have to admit, like the original debates, and I have watched some of those debates on TV, recordings of them. They are nothing like the shit we saw the last couple, presidential debates. Then in the 1980s and the early 2000s, we had money and class shifts. We have consumerism and flex culture made talking about money more normalized, cars, houses, salaries. Religion and politics, however, still divided Thanksgiving tables across America. But then the 2010s hit us and the floodgates opened. For some individuals, we call this the social media era. And some people felt that their opinions were some kind of currency or some shit online. And the old courtesy rules, they were outdated in an era where everyone is expected to declare a stance. Ironically, the lack of filter has made conversations around these subjects less civil. So we used to avoid politics, religion, and money for the sake of courtesy, but now we air them out on Facebook and at the dinner table like WWE SmackDown or some shit. Why? Why? The people that are closest to me know my political leanings. They know my religious beliefs. They know my money and how I feel about saving money and spending money and so on and so forth. All right? And they definitely know don't buy a Ford unless you want to have to park it down the road, because you ain't parking in my driveway with that shit. Sorry. Not sorry. Okay. So it's not okay to do that kind of dehumanizing behavior to your fellow countrymen or to some bot that's actually out there giving you opinions that are just who the hell knows from where. Why would you answer, the phone and take, for granted whoever is on the other line is who they say they are? You can't see them. So it's time for us to kind of pull our heads out of our asses. Okay. Back in my day, I know that sounds so absurd. We used to say please and thank you, and now I rarely hear it. That's crazy to me. Y'all are walking through stores on your phones, doing something on your phone, blocking the aisles in the grocery store, crosswalks, escalators, talking on a speakerphone in public. And I heard some really juicy FaceTime calls once in a grocery store because I don't even go to the grocery store anymore. I ain't about that shit. Instacart can bring it right to my front door. Time is my most valuable currency, and I'm not wasting it while y'all are standing in the way and I can't get my shit. So yeah, no, not doing it. You don't return your shopping carts either. I see all them jackholes. Yep, I see you. Okay? Some of you ghost RSVPs, or maybe you send your response back that you're going to show up and then you don't show up to weddings, graduation parties, any party. That's jackhole behavior. Courtesies, these aren't rules. They're really not. I will tell you that it's a courtesy that I would expect for myself, so I will give it to someone else. Okay? Some people are great at it, and other people epically fail. You don't want to say thank you? It's okay. Don't come out in public. Okay? I would love to know what your biggest pet peeves are. I think I've hit a few of them. The slow drivers, the people that don't use their signals, right? The people that pull out in front of you and then only go 5 miles an hour because they were in such a fucking rush. And there are 9 times out of 10 they're driving a Ford. Anyway, I want you guys to all try to be civil. Do you have to listen? When I see a Ford come down the road, do you think that I yell at that Ford driver and say, "You got shitty judgment, mofo"? No, I don't. He can have poor taste. That's his business. Just means more Chevrolets for me. More CRS. Yeah, I like that. All right. So no, I don't expect anybody to play games and it's just good vibes only, because toxic is real. And I don't believe in dismissing the real struggles, right? So I'm not talking about performative positivity. Also, people that talk about like, oh, you got to have a work-life balance, but they're living in total chaos. I love people who demand apologies and demand loyalty, and they never give their own. They never give any of that back, right? So relationships, conversations, nothing should be one-sided. There should be participation from everybody. All right? And maybe instead of chasing clout, we can start chasing character. What? Oh, yeah. Would be great. So my suggestion is that we all kind of get ourselves right and realize that the pendulum swings that take place in this country, when we feel like something's been wronged, we go all the way in the opposite direction. And that's not appropriate either. It's really not. So maybe tomorrow we're all going to wake up and try to start being polite. Period. and not engage in this hateful rhetoric that I see every single day. Because y'all are wasting your most valuable currency, time, and you're not going to get it back. You can't make more of it. So why don't you start saving it for the stuff that really matters? Would you go outside and use a cup with a hole in the bottom of it while your boat is sinking so you could get the water out of your boat? You wouldn't. It's ineffective. And I promise you, that's exactly what this political rhetoric and this dehumanization of someone else because they have a differing opinion, that's what it is. You're not changing anyone's mind because you're really not educating anyone. No one will learn from you or hear your message when you're being a jackhole about it. And obviously, we're doing something wrong, my friends. If a young man felt empowered to take another man's life simply because of his opinion, so think about what you are showing your children, your grandchildren, your siblings, and how you would feel if they were on the receiving end of what you've been putting out there. It wouldn't make me feel good. Not at all. So I want you guys to send me a message and let me know, what types of things have you seen or heard? What would be your biggest pet peeve, your breaches of courtesy, if you will? That way I can roast them in a future episode, a mini episode or something, and call out people. All right? And I'll have a list of things for you because I have a few that I've seen when I've been out and about, traveling to conferences and things of that nature. So thanks for joining me, y'all. I appreciate you coming in on this hump day for your guilty pleasure. All right. I'm the Salty Goddess, and Margaret Perry, and we'll see you next week. Y'all go out and have a wonderful day filled with opportunity, and I'll see you soon.